Hello everyone, and welcome to the Biblical Bookworm. My name is Elizabeth, and today I will be talking about the book The Story of a Soul by Saint Thérèse of Lisieux. And the reason I'm doing this is because this year is 125 years since her death, and also this will be part of a four-part series where I will talk about all the books of the female doctors of the Church. And the reason for that is because there are certain similarities that I would like to analyze, and also that until I'm done reading all the male doctors of the Church, I will probably have gray hair. And for those of you who are wondering why I'm not in my library as usual, the thing is that I'm on vacation, and this is not Vienna. I wanted to show you my country. I wanted to show you the mountains, the landscape. It doesn't work, unfortunately. But yeah, tell me in the comments where you are from. I would love to know that, honestly. Let's start with the content of the book. So, as you might know, The Story of a Soul is the autobiography of Saint Thérèse of Lisieux, and even though she's a doctor of the Church, she doesn't explain her spirituality, but it's rather hidden inside of her story. So this video, I will first explain her life, and then I will talk about her spirituality. Saint Thérèse of Lisieux was born in 1873 on January 2nd. So this is actually the day of the upload. That's a coincidence. And she was born as the youngest of 9 children. Unfortunately, 4 of her siblings died at the age of babies, like they were babies. And her 4 older sisters all became either religious sisters or nuns. At the age of 4.5 years, her mother died from cancer. And this event really changed Saint Thérèse of Lisieux. It made her insecure, it made her shy, it made her really introverted, and she suffered from that loss. Her second oldest sister, Pauline, became her second mother, but at the age of 9, when Saint Thérèse was 9, her sister Pauline entered the Carmel, and Thérèse was left alone again. This loss was dramatic for Saint Thérèse, and during that time she also became ill. And when there was no hope for recovery, her family prayed a novena to Mary, in specific to Our Lady of Victories. And during that novena, Saint Thérèse saw a statue of Our Lady smiling at her. And that's when Saint Thérèse fully recovered. And this event was very important for her, and she will remember that until her death. At the age of 11, Saint Thérèse has her first Holy Communion, and she describes that day as the most beautiful day in her life. In 1886, so when Thérèse was 13 years old, at Christmas, she talks about how she got a specific grace, a special grace that made her leave her childhood behind and recover from the loss of her mother that she suffered at the age of 4.5 years, and she stopped being so shy and sensitive. At Pentecost 1887, so when Saint Thérèse was 14 years old, she told her father that she would like to enter the Carmel. He agreed, but the problem was that the superior of the Carmel, who was also the bishop there, disagreed. He didn't want to accept a 14-year-old girls in the Carmel. And so Saint Thérèse was, of course, devastated. But when her family made a journey to Rome, she took the opportunity to speak to the Pope, who was Leo XIII at that time. And she had an audience where she explained why she would like to enter the Carmel at her age. But she was disappointed with the answer of the Pope, because the Pope told her that she will enter the convent when God wants that, when God wishes that. And she, of course, expected a lot more from the Pope. But lucky for her, the local bishop, the superior of the Carmel, was finally convinced that her wish to enter the Carmel was sincere, and so she was allowed to enter the Carmel on April 9th in 1888, and her novitiate began in 1889, where she changed her name to Thérèse of the Child Jesus and the Holy Face. What stuck with me from her description of that time period is how she lived charity of neighbor. She said that there were certain nuns that she just naturally disliked, and in order to really love her neighbor, she tried to be especially friendly and especially nice to the nuns that she liked least, and the nuns that she naturally liked, she actually avoided. And that went so far that the nuns that she disliked thought that they were best friends and that Saint Thérèse must be really, really loving them. On Good Friday in 1896, Saint Therese coughed blood, and that was the beginning of her illness, tuberculosis, that she suffered for 18 months until her death. And on Easter the same year, 1896, she entered a period of spiritual desolation, also called the Dark Night of the Soul, where she doubted the existence of eternity, and she never agreed to that doubt intellectually. I've talked about intellectual and emotional doubt in the video last week. I will link it up here. But she really suffered from that, and she died at the age of 24 in 1897. Now, I would like to explain her spirituality a little bit. Her spirituality is really famous. It's called the Little Way. And I decided that the best way to do that probably would be to read quotes. So I've picked 13 quotes. 13 is my lucky number. And I will read them to you. And those are not necessarily the absolutely best quotes, but I think those are the most essential quotes to understand Saint Therese's spirituality. And I have structured the quotes in 3 groups. First, I will talk about the Little Way, the holiness itself. Then about love, what Saint Therese says about love. And the third one is what Saint Therese talks about sacrifice and suffering. So let's start with holiness and the Little Way. If every flower wanted to be a rose, nature would lose their springtime beauty. The good God does not need years to accomplish his work of love in a soul. One ray from his heart can, in an instant, make his flower bloom for eternity. Jesus has chosen to show me the only way which leads to the divine furnace of love. It's the way of childlike self-surrender, the way of a child who sleeps, afraid of nothing, in its father's arms. Holiness consists simply in doing God's will and being just what God wants us to be. Now the quotes about love. True charity consists in bearing our neighbor's defects, not being surprised at their weakness, but edified at their smallest virtues. True love feeds on sacrifice and becomes more pure and strong the more our natural satisfaction is denied. I have found my vocation. My vocation is love. In the heart of the Church, my mother, I will be loved. I understood that all we accomplish, however brilliant, is worth nothing without love. And now I will talk about happiness and sacrifice and suffering. I learned from experience that joy does not reside in the things about us, but in the very depths of the soul, that one can have in the gloom of the dungeon as well as in the palace of a king. True happiness on earth consists in being forgotten and in remaining completely ignorant of created things. As Jesus had made me realize that the cross was the means by which he would give me souls, the more often it came my way, the more suffering attracted me. Sufferings gladly borne for others convert more people than sermons. The world's thy ship and not thy home. Now let's get to my opinion on the book. To be honest, the book was not what I expected it to be. I expected some deep theological thoughts, but in fact it was just the story of a soul with some insights into her beautiful spirituality. And I've really struggled with the fact that I have to admit here that I didn't really like the book, but then I came across some people who shared my opinion that they were actually disappointed the first time. For example, Matt Fred said that, and Father Mike Goring. And I'm not, please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that her spirituality, I don't like her spirituality or something like that. I actually enjoy reading books about her, but not the actual autobiography. But I also talk to people who would, without doubt, give this book a 10 out of 10. So, depending on what books you like, this book might be the absolutely best book you have ever read, or it might be something that probably is not the right thing for you. So, for me personally, it was a 7 out of 10, because I didn't expect that much of a story. I wanted the doctor of the church, I wanted to understand the spirituality. But please note that this is just my insignificant opinion. I hope you liked the video, and please share it with other people. That really helps this channel. And see you next week. God bless. Bye!